Hi, my name is Orianna and Bretschger. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Aquacycl, and I'm joined today by my co-founder, Sofia Babanova, and we're going to answer some questions about our new product, SulfideFix.
So what inspired the development of SulfideFix was actually an internal problem that we had here at Aquacycl. Hydrogen sulfide, besides being very corrosive and detrimental for other equipment, also is not desirable in our core installations for wastewater treatment. So we started looking for different ways to remove hydrogen sulfide from the water phase, but then the solution we came up with turned out to remove hydrogen sulfide from the water and from the gas phase. And besides just being a hydrogen sulfide removal from the water, it can be also another control solution for other customers, as it turned out later on.
Then when we discovered it was a standalone solution, we actually got a call from one of our first clients. We had already had a system operating with them for BET and dealing with their BOD. But they gave us a call and said, hey, I got this sulfide problem at one of my other facilities. Can you help us out? And I said, well, actually, yeah, we can. So we trialed it with them. The trial was really successful. We saw 80 to 90% removal on total sulfide, both in the water, but also in the headspace. So we were able to then contractually move forward with a full installation on a 75,000 gallon tank. And that's been running now for 2.5 years. So now that we've got this great case study and happy clients, we are officially launching the product to the market. So the development of SulfideFix was actually kind of a fun story too. So we were visiting a farm basically to see if there's a way that we could help them in their manure management. They already had an anaerobic digester on site, and they had these really big lagoons with soft caps. So we asked him, was like, hey, how is it that you're dealing with the sulfide? And he explained he has these blowers that run under the soft caps that help push air across the surface of the lagoons, and that mitigates some of the sulfide issues. So we started to think more about that, and then how do we adapt that into storage tanks? And that's how we came up with this idea of having a floating manifold, which will actually distribute air more evenly across the full surface of the water, not just one blower in one spot. And then as the tank volumes are always going to rise and fall, if it floats, then we're always keeping that same microenvironment on top of the water with a floating manifold. So that was the inspiration, manure.
But we went through, what if we do chemical addition? What if we just mix the tank? All these ideas of how we can remove hydrogen sulfide before we visited the farm. When we visited the farm and we heard about the aeration process, it felt like something clicked, and that was the key. So went back, did some research, read some papers, and it's like, what exactly do we need to do in order to make it efficient? And the microaeration component is a key to being so efficient, plus the low energy demand that it also provides. But yeah, the farm was when the idea was born.
As we started to dive into more of what else is on the market and what the offerings are, we found that this was a unique enough solution for us to patent. And now we've got it patented globally.
And there were challenges along the way when we were developing the SulfideFix product, right? So it wasn't like born immediately. Besides the research that we had to do, there were some design ideas that had to be implemented. One of them being how you can accommodate a floating manifold, how you can make it such that you can install it any tank, right? Doesn't matter how big the opening is, where the tank is located, and then tanks have different sizes, right? So we had to come up with this modular design on top of that to accommodate for variations within the geometry or the size of the tanks.
And one of the really fun challenges is how do you get it into the tank in a 2 foot by 2 foot hatch? And so the installation actually influences the design quite a bit relative to if we're above ground, below ground, and it's bespoke. It's a modular approach, but if we've got 4 foot hatch, it makes it a little bit easier for us than a 2 foot hatch. And so we have to take that into account. But also one of the big benefits, I think, in how we design this is that you can install it without having to drain the tank in most cases, right? We're going in from the top of the tank. And so in that case, it's never out of commission. It doesn't impact how our customer does production. We pretty much set it and forget it. But we also are installing monitoring tools. So we're watching how the system is performing in real time and then providing that monitoring as a service to the client so they can forget it, but we don't.
So what that means, we are 24/7 on duty. We are monitoring 24/7 how your installation performs, and we are adjusting parameters locally from our San Diego office. We don't have to send a person on site to ensure 100% efficiency. As part of these remote monitoring control capabilities, we get alarms all the time when something is out of spec. So when a blower is off, when the hydrogen sulfide level is higher than a threshold that we like to achieve, we are getting alarms 24/7, as I mentioned earlier. So we can react fast. But at the same time, we do have logic in place too that monitors the changes within the sensor readings, and our system is smart enough that it can adopt behaviors to tackle some of the issues prior to them becoming a problem.
There's a few differentiators that the SulfideFix as a product has in the market. There are, as we discovered in the development, a lot of options for removing sulfide. The most common is to aerate the tanks, and that means aerating the bulk of the water. So you have these huge manifolds blowing air into these really large tanks. Now that has some success in reducing sulfide, but you can never get enough air usually into these tanks to really eliminate the sulfide problem. And in fact, it ends up pushing a lot of sulfide out into the headspace. The other option is adding chemicals. And so you can do dosing into the tank, and that will chemically change what's happening in the tank and reduce the amount of sulfide emissions. But both of those, which are very common, have drawbacks. For the aeration, it's a lot of energy. Those are really big blowers. And also for the chemical, you're always dosing. Like you always have to add that chemical or else your efficiency drops immediately. And so there's a pretty high OpEx cost for that. And if you've got changes in production, right, on the chemical dosing side, you may be out of balance depending on what wastewaters are coming in. So you always have to keep an eye on it and be very reactive to it. The simplicity of our system mitigates both of those risks. Where it's installed, it floats, so it rises and falls with the volumes and what's happening in the tank. And because it's always creating that microenvironment for the biology to thrive at the surface, as long as we have basic mechanical mixing in the tank, pushing that sulfide to the surface, our bugs really keep up with the activity. And it's really because we're defining that microclimate and that microenvironment inside the tank that keeps on going no matter what is happening in the production environment.
In summary, very simple design, very simple installation, almost no operation cost, very low energy demand, and no chemical addition.
When we were first doing the installation at full scale, so our very first unit that we installed in the tank, we were very conservative in terms of what we anticipated we can do from a KPI perspective. So what we promised the client we would ensure that we did is make sure that their sulfide levels went from 100 to at least 5 ppm. That it would take probably a couple months to reach those values. When we installed it, to our surprise, we actually got to about 1 ppm within the first week of installation. In addition, instead of hitting just a 5 ppm reduction, we were pretty consistently below 1 for the last 2 years of operations. We were surprised pleasantly, and so was the client, relative to how fast the system actually works and how low we were able to take those sulfide levels. We don't guarantee those performance specs for every single installation. It really is dependent on what's happening in the tanks, but we know within the hundreds of ppms of sulfide, we can get it down into the single digits pretty quickly and consistently. Funny story, we were actually talking to the environmental health and safety manager when we were first doing the installation. And she's like, this just seems a little too good to be true. I don't think this is going to work. And she said it very nicely. But I said, okay, that's fair enough. Let's give it a couple months and then let's reevaluate. And then that first couple weeks after installation, she's like, all right, I'm a believer.
Going back to that same customer that we were talking to, they were a little hesitant initially if the system is going to work or not. A couple months back ago, they call back saying that the system is down and it smells. So it was like, please come and fix it, right? Come and fix it because the smell came back. So we sent a person there. Within a couple of hours, everything was back up to speed and running, and then call back a week later to say that the smell is gone again. So that's another confirmation for how good and efficient SulfideFix is.
So as we've been speaking to more and more clients in different parts of the industry about SulfideFix and what it is and why it's different, we've been getting a lot of really great feedback. And as we, kind of present, okay, here's the science behind it, and then here's the results on the case study, we get a lot of really surprise looks like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, can we offer this to our clients? And we're talking to our partners. And, looking across the different segments, it's not just in food and beverage, which is where we're specializing now, that has this problem, but also pulp and paper, oil and gas, chemical, and the municipal sectors all have these challenges. So it's been a great opportunity for us also to learn about where else can we provide value.
So on the technology side, we never stop optimizing our products. SulfideFix is launched, it's out there, you can buy it. It's very efficient, but we always work to make our products better and better. Improving the design, improving the rigidity, optimizing the installation process, and so on. But also, like, what else can we do with that technology? So our next step is thinking about like how we can implement this solution to open water bodies, like lagoons or lakes or rivers and so on, or open tanks too, depending where the problem lays.
Along those lines, one of the really kind of cool things to explore is how does this work in collection systems? Because you get that sulfide, that rotten egg smell is very common as you're driving through the cities. You might drive by a riper part of the collection system. That's also true in industrial settings too, is when you start evolving that sulfide happens pretty early on in the discharge, and then it stays in the pipes and then all the way down into the tanks. Exciting opportunities on how this could work also in a moving wastewater system. So now that we've officially launched SulfideFix, it's been great to get out there and talk a little bit more about it and learn some more of the challenges. And what we found is that pricing structure is variable, of course, depending on the type of tank and the type of problem that we're trying to tackle. But we offer the equipment as CapEx. We do all of the installation, and after we've done that install, we'll offer free monitoring service and a performance guarantee that we agree on ahead of time over the first year of operations. And then if the client wants to keep us as a monitoring and service provider, they can renew annually for a package, time and materials to travel and repair, but we're always watching, right? And so we'll ensure that that data set is always available to the client, and we make sure that things are working like they should. Then the other thing that's kind of unique about the way that we're approaching the market is once we understand that there is a challenge, we go out there, we talk to the client, we take all the measurements on the tank, we'll measure the sulfide levels, we'll figure out what's going to be the biggest challenge on the installation. We can turn around a budget within a couple of weeks, and we can turn around an installation in a couple of months, depending on the complexity. So it's a pretty quick rollout and a cost-effective option. So if you have any additional questions about SulfideFix, how it works, how it could work for you, please get in contact with us. You can go to our website at aquacycl.com and you'll receive feedback directly from our team. Our engineers look forward to your questions and understanding your challenges. And let's get rid of that rotten egg smell.